The 2030 Agenda End Time Prophecy, a biblical Watchman's analysis, unmasking global goals through the lens of Scripture. Introduction. Purpose of this study. This study is designed as a prophetic watchman's guide to understanding the spiritual significance of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. While many view the agenda as a noble roadmap for ending poverty, promoting equality, and saving the planet, this study invites believers to examine it through the lens of Scripture and end-time prophecy. Our goal is not political but spiritual, to equip the people of Yasharel and all followers of Yahusha Ha'Mashiach with discernment, to see through global narratives, understand prophetic timing, and remain rooted in the truth of Yahuwah's word. As deception increases in the last days, the faithful must not be swept away by attractive visions of false unity, peace, and progress. Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Yasharel. Therefore, hear the word at my mouth, and give them warning from me. Ezekiel 3:17. What is the 2030 Agenda? The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development was adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015. It outlines 17 sustainable development goals that aim to transform the world by 2030. These include goals to eradicate poverty, achieve gender equality, combat climate change, and build peaceful societies. The agenda is comprehensive, global, and intended to touch every nation, industry, and individual. While it uses the language of compassion, inclusion, and justice, it does so from a secular, human-centered worldview, excluding the Most High, redefining morality, and concentrating authority in unelected global institutions. Why it matters prophetically according to Scripture, the last days will see the rise of a one-world government, a false peace, and a global economic system controlled by a figure known as the Beast. Revelation 13. Many of the mechanisms promoted in the 2030 Agenda, centralized governance, global finance reform, surveillance under the banner of peace and climate action, mirror the framework needed to bring such a system to life. When they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. 1 Thessalonians 5:3. This is not just a political plan, it is part of a spiritual deception paving the way for the Antichrist kingdom, which will rise just before the return of Messiah. Therefore, the 2030 Agenda must be examined not through carnal eyes, but through the prophetic lens Yahweh has given his remit. Point 1. Global governance and unity. What the 2030 Agenda says. The 2030 Agenda repeatedly emphasizes global partnerships, universal participation, and collective action. Key quotes include, "We are determined to take the bold and transformative steps which are urgently needed to shift the world onto a sustainable and resilient path. We pledge that no one will be left behind." This is an agenda of unprecedented scope and significance, applicable to all. The new agenda will be implemented by all countries and stakeholders, acting in collaborative partnership. The document promotes shared sovereignty, international law, and multilateral enforcement of economic, social, and environmental objectives across all nations. Biblical prophetic lens. 1. Rise of a final global empire. Daniel and Revelation. Daniel 2 and 7. Both chapters outline a succession of world empires, culminating in a final 10-king confederation. Daniel 7:24, out of which arises a fierce, blasphemous ruler, often understood as the Antichrist. Revelation 13:7-8, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and power was given him over all kindreds, and tongues, and nations. This points to a global authority system with dominion over every tribe and nation. The 2030 Agenda's tone of universal jurisdiction mirrors this structure. 2. Tower of Babel revisited. Genesis 11, the agenda's vision echoes the Tower of Babel, where humanity sought to unite under one language and purpose without dependence on Yahweh. Come, let us build ourselves a city, with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Genesis 11-4. Yahweh judged that effort and scattered the nations, because it represented rebellious self-exaltation and centralized power. The 2030 Agenda seeks to undo that dispersion by reintegrating the nations, not under divine leadership, but through global human alliances. Spiritual implication: unity without Yahweh is dangerous. Psalm 2 describes the nations uniting in rebellion, The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against Yahweh and against his anointed. Psalm 2:2. While Scripture supports righteousness, justice, and helping the poor, it warns that a world system apart from Yahweh will ultimately demand allegiance to a false Messiah, beast. Final encouragement: stay awake, stay set apart, stay anchored in truth. Though the world rushes toward unity without Yahweh, you are called to be a watchman, a light in the darkness, and a voice that does not bow to the system of the beast. The 2030 agenda may promise peace and progress, but only Yahusha Ha'Mashiach is the true Prince of Peace and the coming King of Righteousness. Remain rooted in the Word, be bold in the face of deception, sound the alarm with compassion and clarity. And remember, he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Matthew 24:13. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Luke 12:32. You were born for such a time as this. Stand firm, Yasharel. Your redemption draws near.